Now in this second lecture, we are going to talk about the reference axis and the axis of symmetricity. Now remember in the last video I told you, it is actually the centroid is actually a distance, the distance between the point and uh, axis, because in order to find out the distance, we need to have the both points, the originating points and the termination point. Then only we can have a reference distance. So reference axis is usually, whenever you will face the question, you might get a shape something like I'm drawing an arbitrary face. Now here we have a, a semicircle attached to a rectangle, and then a triangle is also attached to it, something like this. So what we do, if there are two conditions, either the reference axis will be given or it will not be given. So if the reference axis is given, that's not the problem. But remember, in case the reference axis is not given, you need to draw the reference axis. So reference axis, pardon me. So reference axis always starts with the extreme point. Means if you have a triangle, a shape like this, it will always begin with the extreme point. You can take it anywhere, but usually people deal with the extreme point, which will be in contact with the extreme edges of the geometry. Now, like we can see, the axis of the y direction is in contact with the extreme point of the triangle, and on the x-axis, this axis is in contact with, please remember, this one is in contact with this point. It is not far away, so it will something like this. So this is what you have to do when deciding the reference axis. Now it is not mandatory that it has to be placed on the left side. Suppose if I have this shape, you are free to take the reference axis if it is on the top face or on the bottommost face or on the extreme left side or on the extreme right side. You are free to select any axis, but it has been a norm for me since I am solving it, so I always take the left side axis. But remember, whenever selecting the reference axis, you take the extreme side. Now if you are taking the extreme left as a reference axis or bottom as a reference axis, your dimensions, so moving from left to right, you will have your positive dimension, and moving from bottom to up, you will have positive dimension. But in some case, suppose one of you have taken this one as a reference axis, these ones, top ones, then for moving from right to left, the dimensions will be negative, and moving from top to bottom, dimensions will be negative. We'll see some question on this idea also, but this is all about reference axis. But sometimes examiner want to test your knowledge, and he can give you a shape like this and give you a reference axis very far away from the geometry, and some point will be already shown up, like distance between these two axes is y, and this point in between this point is x. So if the examiner really want to check your knowledge about centroid, the understanding of the topic, he will provide you a reference away from it. And in most of the university exam, you will never find out find the reference axis. So you need to draw it. And remember, this reference axis always starts from the extreme points. Now this can be anything: extreme left, extreme right, top face or bottom face. It can be your discretion. It depends upon your discretion. Okay. Then the next topic is axis of symmetricity. Although it is not a standard topic to teach, but this actually helps you save a lot of time during your examination. So once you are provided with what is this? Once you are provided with a geometry, you need to find out the symmetricity axis. Now I have a square here, and we all will remember if that I'm going to draw a horizontal line like this, the bottom part is going to coincide with the top part. And same thing is true for this section also. Means the left side is going to coincide with the right hand side, or the right hand side is going to coincide with the left hand side. So this is called as something symmetry, axis of symmetricity. And if a geometry possesses this, remember, the centroid is always going to lie at axis of symmetricity. You need not to find out the value of the centroid. Like in this previous upside image, here I have this axis of symmetricity. Means if I'm going to fold my shape like this on this about this axis, the top part is going to coincide with the bottom section. And whatever is the total height of this dimension, suppose this was capital Y, then the centroid location will be half of this distance, that is y by 2. We'll discuss this about in the next video. But this is about axis of symmetricity. Now, a rectangle possesses the same value, same properties, means it is symmetric about these two axes. How about a triangle, equilateral triangle? Now, equilateral triangle possesses symmetricity about this vertical axis. Means right side of the section is going to coincide with the left side. But it does not contain the symmetricity in the vertical direction. Means you cannot simply fold it in any way that top part is going to coincide with the bottom part. So if you find this geometry, now in this geometry you need not to find out the location x. It is always, it will be the half of the distance, but in y direction you need to find out. So not a standard topic, but helps you save time in university exam. If you find out the axis of symmetricity, you need not to find out the location of centroid in that particular direction. If your image does not have a symmetricity axis, then you need to find out the centroid, the location of the centroid in that particular direction. So there are some standard geometries for which the centroid is already found out, and you have to remember those formula. You have to remember those values in order to able to solve the problem of centroid in your day-to-day problem or in your during your university exam as well. So see you in the next class where we will discuss about the different uh, the centroid, the position of the centroid for different geometries. Okay.